Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats and welcome the MC, Kim Dozier.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Dozier with CNN and the Military Times. Welcome to our next session. Shortly, we will be hearing from Natalie Pinchuk. She is the wife of Nobel Peace Laureate Ales Bialiatski. So get your GLOBSEC app ready for questions, or if you're very brave, get ready to raise your hands. Before that, I want to introduce you to two women who are leading one of GLOBSEC's flagship programs. This is the CEE HER initiative. That's spelled CEE HER. It is meant to amplify women's voices in Central and Eastern Europe and the Western Balkans. So, could we welcome to the stage Vladislava Gubalova and Oleksandra Hordon. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Vladislava Gubalova.
And I'm Oleksandra Hordon. Hi.
The brutality of the Russian invasion really brought to the forefront a specific topic for Europe and beyond, and that is the topic of justice and necessity of justice. And those unlawful and unjust acts that have been committed and continuously are still committed either by the Russian forces in Ukraine or the regime that it is in Belarus have made for significant calls by democratic governments and civil society leaders for a good and meaningful international action. And in the midst of this war, in the midst of crisis, sometimes unnoticed, there are women who are superheroes. They are working hard and tackling multitude of very complex, usually personal challenges, while actually being active and strong activists for justice.
And we would like to involve you in the conversation. Please take out your phones, and we will be using Slido. To warm up, let's answer the first question. Do you agree that women play a pivotal role in advocating for justice, truth, and human rights? Okay, I see that we are on the same page.
No, let's wait.
Not yet.
Are we answering? All right. Very good.
Okay. So, indeed, we are surrounded by women, even here at the GLOBSEC Forum, who have taken upon themselves to be the advocates for their countries for freedom and democracy. They tirelessly meet with policymakers, leaders of international organizations, with communities and ordinary citizens to bring the reality of unlawfulness brought by war or regime crimes and the overwhelming need for justice.
Mm-hmm. And this is why part of our work with GLOBSEC CEE HER initiative is, as Kim already mentioned, to amplify further the voices of women, to be present in policy making, to be present in important, impactful debates, to be part of media presentations or other public engagements. And we do this through different channels. We have our own CEE HER database for women experts from our region. We are organizing such type of high-level gatherings. We're actually having programs that deal with training and mentoring of aspiring young women, and we do our own research. For example, this report.
In short, we want women in our region to be included, to be decision makers, to use their potential.
And this is why this pushes us further as part of the initiative to strive toward change of narratives and change of policies, because we really believe this is one sustainable channel to have a more stable, more prosperous, more even secure region, our broader region that we are here, not only Central Europe, but the broader Central Eastern European region.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of policies, in our newest CEE HER report, we focused on Ukrainian women who, greatly affected by the war, had to flee the country to Central Europe. As you could see the cover on the slide, Russia's invasion in Ukraine had forced nearly 12 million people to flee their home. And now I would like you to go back to Slido and answer another question. So can you estimate what percentage of temporarily displaced Ukrainians in Central European regions are actually women and girls? Mm-hmm.
Last chance.
All right. So, based on data from our report, the average rate of women and girls among those fleeing the war in Ukraine to Austria, Slovakia, Czechia, and Hungary is approximately 65%, which is clearly the predominant group.
So these Ukrainian women who received the temporary protection status to an EU directive, which was actually activated for the very first time in all 27 member states, were eligible for different initial support upon arrival. And our research actually showed that this support and this immediate assistance varied in quantity and quality, unfortunately. But nevertheless, there were a multitude of actors that were providing the initial assistance, and it's still providing the assistance. These were governmental agencies, these were international organizations such as the UN Agency for Refugees, for example. These were local municipalities, these were NGOs, as well as just ordinary citizens.
Imagine women, often with small children, had to leave everything they know behind, crossing the borders, seeking for security. Many of them quickly became the backbone of assistance to newcomers. In fact, it is the women-led, Ukrainian women-led organizations that have stood out in the region.
So these were actually very quickly becoming women superheroes. They were coming in new countries, trying to find security in a different country with a different language, caring for their families, which on average it's a family was at least with one small child, often more children, as well as elderly members, and separated by their husbands. Yet they were supporting the family and still supporting. They're supporting their community, and they were helping to every other newcomer that was arriving and fleeing from war. And so, in a sense, besides those complex challenges, personal challenges, they still became active advocates for justice, consciously a lot of times, but sometimes even unconsciously.
So, of course, their lives are not without multiple challenges, even while they are not in the active war zone. And now, please, let's go back to Slido once again. And this time, I would like to ask you to answer, just maybe with one or two short words, to the question, in your opinion, what are the most common challenges that Ukrainian temporarily displaced women are facing today?
And we have been seeing some words previously already written.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's becoming interesting. Yes, correct. Yes, very good. Indeed, there are many. It's a multitude of challenges that we are seeing that these women continuously are experiencing. Some of the ones that were most frequently seen by us in our research were from finding a childcare services to reasonable job, and we see this is popping already in our Slido, to actually issues having to do with safety. Not security necessarily, because it's not a war zone, but safety. Safety connected to accommodation, safe accommodation. Safety connected to dealing with and avoiding, obviously, gender-based violence, even sometimes human trafficking. And one more additional challenge that we identified in our research, and quite important element, was the challenge to locate and to be able to use an appropriate psychological support, which in this case is quite important.
So what we did, the CEE HER team has actually collected a number of recommendations to government, to EU institutions, organizations to improve their policies and practices. Among them, disaggregated data collection and coordination of information, with a strong emphasis on gender-based approach to devise specific solutions to specific needs and vulnerabilities. And actually, we would like to invite you to check out the full report, which you can find in print around the forum, also on our GLOBSEC app, or on the CEE HER website.
Wonderful. And now I think that we are all waiting to hear from a woman that indeed is an activist for justice, for truth, for human rights. And while she's doing this, she's also very much familiar with some of the challenges that we already described. So these are the women superheroes that we're talking about, that we think that their voices are essential so they can prompt a meaningful and sustainable international action and international response. And from GLOBSEC here, we are doing our little part to try to amplify those voices.
So thank you, and let's listen carefully to the upcoming conversation.
Thank you.